The sun hung heavy in the sky, its golden light casting long shadows over the rugged cliffs of Mount Ida. The air smelled of pine and earth, a scent Hercules had long associated with the land he called home. He stood atop the mountain, his breath steady but deep, his body carved by years of battles fought and won. His eyes, once filled with the unbreakable fire of a demigod, now carried the weight of a man who had seen too much. Hercules had always been a warrior, the son of Zeus himself, destined for greatness from birth. His legend had grown with each impossible feat, the slaying of the Nemean lion, the capture of the Erymanthian boar, the cleansing of the Augean stables. He had been a hero of men, a god among mortals, but even the strongest could not escape the cruel hands of fate. And fate had been especially cruel to him. His wife, Deianira, had once been the love that balanced his rage. She had been his solace, his peace, but doubt had taken root in her heart, planted by whispers and insecurities. The words of a jealous world had convinced her that Hercules would leave her for another. When she was given the blood of the centaur Nessus, she had believed it to be a charm, a way to secure his love forever. The truth had been far darker. The moment Hercules had donned the tunic soaked in the centaur's blood, a searing pain ignited his flesh. The venom of the Hydra, coursing through his veins, burned like the fires of Hades itself. His muscles, once invincible, twisted in agony, his skin blistering and peeling as the poison wove its way into his very essence. He had screamed, not in fear, but in sheer torment, the pain unlike anything he had endured in all his labors. He had tried to tear the tunic from his body, but the fabric clung to him like a curse, fusing with his skin and becoming a second layer of suffering. He had not wept. Hercules did not weep, but his roars had shaken the heavens, and the gods themselves had turned their eyes to his suffering. He had fought beasts, conquered titans, and defied gods, yet this was a foe he could not defeat. He had known then that his time in the mortal realm was at an end. With unsteady steps, he had climbed Mount Ida, each footfall a battle against the agony threatening to consume him. He had not sought pity, nor had he begged for relief. Instead, he had sought the only end befitting a warrior of his stature. The flames would be his release, a pyre fit for a hero who had given everything. He stood now at the peak, gazing down at the wood he had gathered, dry branches and sacred oils laid carefully upon the stones. He would not wait for the poison to take him. He would meet death on his own terms. He turned to his closest companion, Philoctetes, the only man he trusted to carry out his final wish. "Light the fire," Hercules commanded, his voice steady despite the pain ravaging his body. Philoctetes hesitated, his hands trembling. "My lord, there must be another way. The gods have played their games," Hercules interrupted, his jaw clenched. "I am done being their pawn." Philoctetes swallowed hard, his heart heavy with grief. But he knew better than to defy the will of Hercules. With a heavy heart, he took the torch, its flame flickering against the darkening sky. He stepped forward, his breath unsteady, and lowered the torch to the base of the pyre. The fire caught quickly, the dry wood eager to embrace the flames. Hercules stepped onto the pyre, his body trembling from the torment but his will unbroken. He did not flinch as the heat licked at his feet, did not falter as the flames climbed higher. He raised his gaze to the heavens, meeting the eyes of the gods who watched from Olympus. Zeus, his father, felt a pang of sorrow. He had loved his son, yet he had never spared him from suffering. Hera, once his tormentor, now gazed upon him with something akin to regret. Even the gods, for all their power, could not undo what had been done. As the fire consumed him, Hercules felt the pain lessen, the agony of the poison drowned by the greater embrace of the flames. His mortal flesh burned away, but he did not scream. He stood tall, his silhouette unyielding against the inferno. And then, as his body succumbed, his spirit was lifted. Hercules did not die. He transcended. The gods, moved by his suffering and the strength he had displayed, welcomed him to Olympus. His mortal pain was shed, and in its place, divinity took root. He was no longer bound by the limitations of flesh and blood. He had earned his place among the immortals, his name forever etched in the stars. Philoctetes watched as the flames died down, his heart heavy yet full of awe. The legend of Hercules would never fade, not in the minds of men nor in the annals of history. The world had lost a hero, but the heavens had gained a god. And so, Hercules ascended, his legacy unbroken, his name eternal. The fall of a legend had only been the beginning of his immortality. In Olympus, Hercules found himself reborn, no longer tormented by mortal pains. The halls of the gods welcomed him as one of their own, and Zeus stood before him, pride and sorrow mingling in his divine gaze. "You have suffered greatly, my son," Zeus spoke, his voice carrying across the celestial halls. "But your trials have not been in vain. You have earned your place among us." Hercules knelt before his father, not in submission, but in acknowledgement of the journey he had undertaken. He had lived as a man, fought as a hero, and ascended as a god. As he took his place among the immortals, he knew his story was far from over. From the heavens, he would watch over the world he had once walked, ensuring that his legacy would continue. And in the hearts of men, his name would never fade. For Hercules was more than a warrior, more than a hero. He was eternal,